Hello students, so we are back with another video on microbes in human welfare. We were discussing about the different usefulness of microbes in various aspects of life. We have discussed about its household usefulness, its usefulness in the field of medicine, in industry. Today we are going to discuss about how the microbes are useful in agriculture. So what happens is, you see on my screen it's showing biocontrol agents. Now what are these biocontrol agents? Biocontrol agents are those agents that are employed to kill plant pathogens, certain pests which attack the plants, which attack the desired crops that the farmers grow in their fields. How is this done? By applying certain biological methods. By employing biological methods, this is done. Now, these agents, they are basically of two types. They can be called bioherbicides. They can be bioinsecticides. So when these agents, when they control the pests, these agents are of two types, bioherbicides and bioinsecticides. Herbicides are those agents which will kill the undesired weeds which grow in a agricultural field, and they pose a threat to the original desired crop. We will come to it later. First, we will discuss about the most significant biocontrol agents that are in use. Like, first it's written Bacillus thuringiensis. As the name suggests, Bacillus, it must be a bacterium. So the cotton plant, it is often attacked by certain insects which are called bollworms, cotton bollworms. What happens is, it has been seen that Bacillus thuringiensis, this bacterium, it can produce a toxic protein which is called cry protein. This cry protein, if somehow the pest, the insect larva, if it consumes this cry protein, this toxic protein can kill the larva. So that is why what happens is, Bacillus thuringiensis spores are available in the market in the form of small sachets. So the farmer, he mixes the spores, the powdered spores, along with water, and then sprinkles that mixture onto the plant body, onto the cotton plants. As a result, if somehow the cotton plant is already infested with the pest, what will happen? The larvae of those cotton bollworms will consume this toxic cry protein and will automatically be killed. So that is how Bacillus thuringiensis, it acts as a very useful biocontrol agent. And nowadays, with the help of biotechnology, even more advanced methods have been devised, like the gene, the cry gene which produces cry protein. That gene belongs to the bacterium. So scientists, they have now devised a method by which they can introduce this toxic gene into the plant itself. So as a result, what happens? The plant now can produce the toxic protein, and automatically the bollworms get killed. Okay, and we must remember Bacillus thuringiensis is one of the first useful products that have been synthesized with the help of biotechnology. It has got immense application in the field of agriculture. Next comes Trichoderma. Trichoderma, it's a free living fungus which resides in the roots of certain plants. And when it resides in the roots of certain plants, it helps the plant to get rid of certain plant pathogens. It must be secreting certain toxins which are harmful for those pests. Okay. Then comes baculoviruses, which are very useful in attacking certain arthropods, certain insects. Arthropods and insects which can act as pests. But the most important aspect of baculoviruses is they are very species specific, which means they will attack a particular species only. They will not harm certain other mammals or birds or fish. So you see it's written that they are excellent for species specific narrow spectrum insecticidal application, but doesn't harm the plants, mammals, birds and fish that are present in and around that particular environment. We must remember, students, that baculoviruses, they belong to the genus Nucleopolyhedrovirus. This is important. Okay. Now next is bioherbicides. Bioherbicides, as I was telling you, when a farmer grows crops in the field, certain weeds can act as a potent threat to the crop. Why? Because weeds are undesirable plants which compete with the original crop, original desired crop. Compete for what? Compete for the resources. As a result, due to competition, the original desired crop, their production may decline because it's not getting the adequate amount of resources which it should get. So that actually causes harm to the production of crops. So nowadays what happens? Scientists, they have devised methods by which they can control these weeds by application of certain microbes, like over here examples are given. Opuntia controlled by Cacloblastis cactorum. Okay. So this Opuntia, it's a cactus. It acts as a weed. It can be controlled by this insect Cacloblastis cactorum. Okay. Milkweed vines. These are certain pests which are controlled by the fungus Phytophthora palmivora. So these two examples are significant examples which we need to keep in mind. Next comes bioinsecticides. Now, bioinsecticides means these will act on certain insects which act as pests. There are certain methodologies by which they can be applied. One of the first methodology is sterilization strategy. What happens is certain sterile males are brought in contact with certain females. Certain sterile male pests are brought in contact with certain female pests. Now, since the males are already sterile, they can mate with the female, but they cannot produce fertile offspring. So, as a result, what happens? As a result, since fertile offsprings are not produced, so the population doesn't increase, so the population of the pests can be controlled, brought under control. This is done mostly in screwworms. Okay. Next is application of pheromones. What are pheromones? Pheromones are also called sex attractants. Basically, pheromones, it's a very important characteristic of arthropods, insects, because pheromones, they act as sex attractants, which means they will attract individuals of opposite sex for mating. So if these pheromones somehow, if they can be applied on certain female pests, what will happen? These will attract the male pests, and that can serve as a pest trap, as an insect trap. Females are already there in the field, okay? By application of these pheromones, males will be attracted, both males and females will be trapped, and that is how the pest population can be controlled. So that is why farmers, they often use pheromone strips, and they keep it in different places of the field so that the male pests, male insects can be attracted. Okay. Next is ecdysone. Ecdysone is a very important hormone in insects. Basically, it is called molting hormone because it helps in molting of the insects. So ecdysone, what happens is, if these hormones are introduced in the insect at the juvenile stage, okay, what will happen? They cause or they bring about early death in the insects. Why? Because application of this hormone will cause the juvenile form of the insect to transform into an adult form very early. And as it reaches the adult form, the lifespan is also reduced. It will readily attain the old age. So insects will die at a faster rate, or it's a quicker process. They will attain maturity at a higher rate, and they will die also beforehand. So that is why ecdysone is used, and certain natural insecticides are used. Natural insecticide means insecticides which are naturally secreted by certain plants. For example, rotiton. Rotiton, it is secreted by roots of certain plants. Rotiton itself acts as an insecticide. Then azadirachtin. Azadirachtin, basically Azadirachta. This is the scientific name of neem plant. So azadirachtin is an insecticide which is automatically secreted by the neem leaves. So it acts as an insecticide. Okay. Then nicotine, which is secreted by the tobacco plant, which also can act as a natural insecticide. Okay. So this is all about the application of biocontrol agents in the field of agriculture. Then comes biofertilizers. So certain organisms, they can enrich the nitrogen content of the soil. Nitrogen content of the soil, they can enrich that so that the dependence on chemical fertilizers can be reduced. Chemical fertilizers, if we apply them more and more, what happens is it depletes the soil of its natural fertility. Moreover, rainwater will drain these fertilizers, wash away these fertilizers into the nearby water bodies. Water bodies will become nutrient rich. That will affect different organisms which are already there in the water bodies. So many harmful aspects of chemical fertilizers are there. So that is why farmers nowadays, they have started using biofertilizers. Among them, the most important and the most common is Rhizobium bacterium, Azobacter, Nostoc, Azospirillum. These are all bacteria which can fix atmospheric nitrogen. They fix atmospheric nitrogen, which is converted into nitrates. Nitrates are absorbed by the plants, or this nitrogen is used by the plants for making proteins, and that helps in plant growth. Then comes glomus. Glomus is a kind of a fungus. It symbiotically lives with roots of certain plants. Why is it called a symbiotic association? Because glomus fungus can pass on phosphorus of the soil to the roots. And it also provides resistance to certain pathogens, also provides tolerance to salinity and drought, which means the plant becomes resistant to extreme salinity of the soil, or when there is suppose any kind of drought, the plant becomes resistant to that if this kind of a fungus is present in the roots of those plants. What is the fungus in turn getting? It is getting shelter. It gets shelter from the plant. That is why it's a symbiotic association. Next comes cyanobacteria, which is basically blue-green bacteria. So Anabaena, Nostoc, Oscillatoria, these are free-living blue-green bacteria which can fix atmospheric nitrogen and can increase soil fertility. So regarding biofertilizers, we will have to go through these examples, very important. So all about industry, all about household we have discussed, agriculture we have discussed. How the biocontrol agents help the farmers to get rid of the pests. But we should remember, why did the farmers depend more on these biocontrol agents? Because, chemical herbicides, chemical pesticides are also available. Why not depend on them? Why depend on these biocontrol agents? Why? That is because when chemical insecticides, chemical pesticides are used, they have a broad spectrum of action. They can kill a variety of organisms. So certain organisms are there, certain predatory organisms are there which can feed on those pests. Now what happens is, if chemicals are used to kill the pests, as a result what will happen? If those chemicals are used, pests will die, and as a result the predators which depend on the pests, they will also die. The beneficial predators, the parasitic insects which feed on those pests, they will also die. That is a loss for the farmers, that is a loss for agriculture, because we cannot eradicate or eliminate those predatory parasites, because basically they feed on these pests. So eradication of pests means eradication of those beneficial predators also. So that is why less dependence on chemicals, more dependence on these bioherbicides, bioinsecticides have come up. Okay, and moreover, insecticides, pesticides, if they are chemical, that also depletes the fertility of the soil. So that is why farmers, they nowadays try to depend less on these chemicals. Okay. So next comes another important aspect, which is biogas. Now what is biogas? It is basically a mixture of methane. Maximum amount is methane, which is 50 to 70%. Carbon dioxide, which is 30 to 40%. Hydrogen and hydrogen sulfide. So it's a mixture of gas. Now why is it called biogas? That is because methanogens, which means methanogenic bacteria like methanobacterium, methanococcus, which already reside in the rumen of the cattle. Rumen, we know, the stomach of cattle, it's called rumen because it has got 4 chambers. The stomach of cattle, it is a host for a wide range of methanogens. So cattle basically feeds on cellulose, hemicellulose. What happens is these methanogens in the rumen of the cattle helps to anaerobically digest the cellulose which the cattle feeds, which the cattle consumes. They anaerobically digest the cellulose, okay, and as a result biogas is produced. Methane is produced. Now this methane which is produced, it has various uses. It can be used to generate electricity. Hydrogen is a very useful source of fuel. It can be used to generate electricity. Methane can be used to generate electricity. Now after anaerobic decomposition of the cellulose, certain solid materials, remains back. That solid material is called sludge. This sludge can be later used as a manure. So production of biogas gives us twofold usefulness, twofold advantages rather. One is biogas is produced which is pollution free, which is eco-friendly, environment friendly, because it doesn't produce CO2, which can cause global warming. Moreover, it also can help in agriculture because the sludge that is left behind can be applied to agricultural fields. So this kind of production of biogas, we have to remember, this was first developed in India by Indian Agricultural Research Institute, IARI. It's a very, very reputed institute. Students who, pursue biological sciences as their career, they go to this institute for pursuing their PhD or postdoc. So this institute is a very reputed institute in our country. And Khadi and Village Industries Commission. So we have to remember these two names because they were the pioneers in biogas production. Okay. How is this biogas produced? We have to learn that also. So the first step is the anaerobic microbes, which means the methanogens. What happens? They degrade the complex cellulose, hemicellulose, complex polymers into simple monomers. Okay? These facultative anaerobic microbes. But we should remember that lignins, which are also found in cell walls of plants and certain inorganic salts, they are not digested. They are kept back or they are left behind as residues. But the cellulose and the hemicellulose, they are acted upon. Okay. Now this step of digestion of these cellulose, hemicellulose, this is done by the microbes. Next, what happens? These monomers, they are converted to organic acids like acetic acid, and this step is called acidogenesis because acid formation takes place. And the third step is called methanogenesis because acetic acid is converted to methane. So methane production is taking place by anaerobic methanogens. So three main steps of biogas production. If you look at this picture, this is basically a a device by which the biogas can be produced. What happens is, this is the digester tank where the digestion will take place. It is linked to an influent. What is influent? Influent is the container into which the mixture which is to be digested is added. There is a pipe. You can see through the pipe the mixture goes to the digester tank. Okay, and to this digester tank the methanogens are added. Some methanogens are already there in the the mixture. So as the methanogens work, as they digest, what happens is methane gas is produced, and that causes a rise in the level of this mixture. Okay, and there is a biogas outlet over here. This pipe is there through which the biogas can be streamed out, and then this biogas can be applied for various purposes. What about the sludge that remains behind, like lignin and the other substances? They are passed into this effluent tank. So there is a channel through which the sludge can be taken out, this outlet tank. Now this sludge can be used as a manure in the agricultural field. So through this biogas outlet, biogas is coming out, and through this pipe, what is happening? The sludge is coming out and it is being deposited over here, which is used as manure in the agricultural field. So this is all about biogas production. Very, very important. Okay, so in this video we have come across the use of microbes as biocontrol agents and use of microbes in the production of biogas. Two very important aspects of the chapter has been discussed. So please go through the video carefully. If you want to pause the video and see it again and again, that you can do. That is the utility of these videos. You can pause the lecture, you can go back the part where you haven't understood, again you can forward it. So go through the video carefully, see what are the points that are being discussed, because the points which are being discussed are applicable for competitive examinations also, because questions, MCQs from these parts do come in the competitives. Okay, I hope this video will be useful for you. If you like the video, please click on the like button, share the video. Those who haven't subscribed, please tell them to subscribe to the channel to avail more such videos. Okay, till then, bye-bye. We'll be coming back with another video on the same chapter because the chapter is not done yet. Okay, bye-bye.